My name is Jennifer Payne. I'm from Holden High School. We are in Orinda. We're super close to BART. It's about a 15-minute walk. I've been there for about 16 years. I started as a trainee myself and then have been clinical director for about the last 7. We just had our 50th year, which is kind of crazy that we've been around for 50 years. We focus on the emotional and social growth of the teens as much as the academic piece. So first and foremost, we're a school, but we know there's so much more to humans than being just a student. And so there's a lot of focus on community, relationship, students really learning to advocate for themselves. And that is the role that the counselors kind of play in to support them and just kind of finding themselves and understanding themselves and being able to find their voice a bit. We're small, super tiny. 40 students is a full high school for us. So students come to us from all over the Bay Area, as far sometimes as Novato to San Bruno to Pleasanton to Vallejo. And so having BART close by is really important. What else? They come to us for a myriad of reasons. First and foremost, public school is not the right match for them. So whether that's around some mild to moderate learning issues, whether that's around some emotional challenges, depression, anxiety, some trauma, social anxiety, maybe they've been homeschooled, they tend to find us because they're looking for a smaller learning environment and a place that really they can be seen, and we can individuate and differentiate the instruction that we do for them. We're much smaller right now because of the pandemic. So we are doing, we just were in site, but now we are back off site. And so we're at 25 kids right now, so that when we are able to open up and be in person, which is unclear if that's going to go into fall of next year, that we are able in our tiny space to be able to accommodate all students who want to come on campus. So first and foremost, they're working with students one-on-one. They also do family sessions. So the thing that's a little bit unique about Holden is if you are working with a student one-on-one, you are in any meeting that happens for them, whether it's a family counseling meeting or an academic meeting, as an advocate. So you get to be in the room, watch the process, be there just to kind of advocate and be a lens for your client. Whereas you might be running a family session for a student that you're not working with one-on-one. So you get to be able to be in the room either as an advocate, be in the room as running the session. You also run groups. From the student's perspective, it's kind of seen more as an elective class. It's 50 minutes once a week through the semester, and counselors do 1 to 2. They're welcome to do kind of as many as they want, depending on how many hours they want and how often they want to be on the schedule, but at least 1 is required, and it just has to have a theme. So some counselors, are doing a check-in where that's kind of the basis of it, and they're checking in each week, seeing how kids are doing. Right now we have a student of yours who's doing a collage class. We've got someone doing a tarot class. We have somebody doing a storytelling class. So that's part of the expectation, is that they'll do one of those. They are on, when we're on site, and it's a little bit more of a normal world, they're there as a staff member. So they're kind of around, if there isn't a client that they're working with one-on-one, they might be holding kind of a crisis hour where they're just kind of hanging on campus, being available if something is coming up for students and they're struggling and need to check in. And then they're expected to do their notes, which now we're doing them online. We always were kind of old school and had the old files, which I've got of my own right here that I was doing waiting. But now it's all therapy notes online. So their only requirements are to be doing the individual, running a group, running family sessions, and then doing their notes. Not only, that's a lot, but there's no additional expectations. As clinical director, that comes to me when students apply to Holden. If there's any mental health, emotional challenges that they're coming into us with, and they're in outside therapy or meeting with a psychiatrist, I do a screening first to make sure that Holden is the appropriate match for them. A lot of students are appropriate maybe academically, but we want to be sure that they're within our scope socially and emotionally. Once we decide that and students come, really first and foremost, it's on schedule. So the times that students have their one-on-one counseling, which we call RES, Resource Exploration and Support, it's typically within the schedule and during an elective hour. So once the schedules get created for the students, I then look at them. If there's elective hours that they have, we pull them from that class, and that would be the hour that they meet with the counselor each week. So often it comes down to the time that works best for them is Tuesday at 10, which of our counselors are available at that time for the semester. But if there is any flexibility, I kind of go off my gut on who I think would be a good match. Typically in a year where we're on campus, there's about 3 or 4 days where students and counselors are interacting before the schedule is set. And so there is time if a counselor is feeling really drawn to a student or a student is feeling drawn to a counselor and it works schedule wise, we do our best to make that happen. But really at the end of it, it is me doing the assessment, me doing a match, and then counselors and students knowing that there's flexibility. If for some reason it's not a good match, for whatever reason, we can always switch it up. So right now, because we're small, all counselors, sorry for the gardener noise in the background, all are working with 5. Typical is 5 to 9 students that you will follow through the school year. And then the family meetings vary. Sometimes, families are all offered 8 family sessions as part of their tuition that we each school year that we encourage them to use. Sometimes it's a select 10 families that are using them, and depending on whether that's the counselors, it depends how often they might have family meetings each week, but anywhere from 5 to 9 students, more on the higher end when we are, at our normal capacity, and then doing anywhere from 1 to 3 groups, depending on how much they want to do. And then we also have started to, with this format of being online, of when counselors have free hours within their schedule and aren't doing one-on-one with students, that they're sitting in on academic classes. So if students are getting flooded, getting overwhelmed, they can break off into a breakout room and have a check-in with the counselor before they go back in. So the on campus where they might be hanging outside waiting for kids to kind of come out if they need to check in, we tried to implement that with this online platform of where having them kind of hang in a breakout room. For classes where we know students are struggling a little bit more, which tend to be math. That's always the one that kids have breakdowns happen in the room. So supervision, what is part of our program is all counselors have 1 hour of individual and 2 hours of group. I do the group supervision. I also do lots of the individual, but one of the other directors is also a supervisor, also a licensed MFT, and she typically takes on one of the trainees or associates each year. It's structured in group supervision. We start kind of with information, like if there's anything that's been up to share that counselors would have missed from academic teachers meeting, I'll share about what is up for the students. If there's any kind of business or information that they need to know about schedule, about calendar, about new students who are coming in, there's a space to just make sure we all together know what's going on. Then there's a check-in, which is personal and work related, just checking in, seeing how counselors are doing, seeing what is going on for them professionally, being able to let me know what students they want to talk about, really encourage it not to just be on challenged areas, but also on things that feel like they're going well. Because I think often what I notice is people feel like in that space, I gotta talk about what's not working or what I'm struggling with, and really wanting to create space for the wins and the ups, and to be sure that that's being included in there as well. And then we kind of take turns, try to take a little bit of a break in between, and I try to make sure that there is space for everybody. If one counselor wants to talk about 6 things and someone wants to talk about 1, just trying to divide up time so that there's space for everyone. And then individual supervision, similar, but a little bit more space to go a little bit more in depth with things that are going on for the individual counselor, whether with a case or just for their own transference, countertransference that's coming up. Training is weekly. It's every week for an hour. And one of my counselor who's been there about 5 or 6 years is now licensed, took over the training for me. So Liz DeYoung is doing that. And we start off with the basics where we need to be sure that we're going over just our counselor handbook and the rules and the confidentiality that is specific to Holden, which there's a couple little nuances of it that aren't so standard if you were in a private practice setting. So making sure that they're really kind of understanding our site, our placement, that's those first couple weeks when the school year starts. Suicide assessment, self-harm, CPS reporting, how it's different working with teens versus adults. We kind of go over all kinds of different things. Depression, anxiety, spending some weeks on those areas, on ADD, how that shows up, talking about whatever also counselors are interested in. So if there's kind of an area that they're feeling like they want to have a space to talk about more, we will include that within our training schedule. Also, if they have anything to bring in, we acknowledge that everyone comes in with all of their knowledge and experience and background. And if there's anything and a space that they want to take over a training and have them run it, that happens as well. And all kinds of topics. I mean, we have a whole list of them, but making sure that we cover the important, self-disclosure, talking about gift giving, talking about boundaries, talking about transference, countertransference, all of it. And then we also have people come in. We have a lot of students who are adopted. That tends to be a high population of ours. And so we often try to get people who are experts in the field through PACT or different areas to come in and do some trainings for us. Authenticity, like just being real. These are teenagers. You got to put your guard down and you have to really just show up. And I think those that struggle the most at our placement are trying to be a therapist. And it as opposed to just being yourself. I mean, that's what this is about. Kids want to just be able to connect, know that you're real and that you can create this safe space in a container, and then stuff comes up. And I think sometimes there's a challenge of wanting that depth work to really happen really quickly in the room. And that often takes time. Also, just with the maturity of these kids where it's going to happen at 25, right? Not at 14, but we're creating a space to kind of make therapy be something that's safe and something that's comfortable. And so I think just knowing it's okay to be yourself and you don't have to try super hard. You just got to connect, and it's about rapport and relationship. I think that, I know that feels like a simple answer, but that's the piece that is most successful is being as comfortable as you can be in your own skin and just showing up and knowing that that's enough. There isn't any more that I'm really expecting, because the rest of it comes once we've created this place that kids feel like they can talk and be open, aren't judged, just this authentic space. Often, I mean, I know for myself, when I came in, this was my last placement. I had worked at a lot of other places and hadn't done much work with young people, with teens, and kind of stopped here because I needed to do my kid hours and was like, this place seems cool and funky and I can wear Vans and a hoodie. And that was my jam. I didn't feel like I had to dress up and not be myself. But it isn't always depth work. And I think that piece at first, when you're really excited and you're out of school and you're like ready to do therapy, or what you think therapy is and what you think therapy looks like, I think that can be challenging, because sometimes you are spending 50 minutes talking about, Counter-Strike, talking about a video game, talking about manga, talking about where it isn't always crisis and things that are happening and these negative dynamics. And I think sometimes people are longing for a little bit more of that until they realize that who else wants to sit with these kids for 50 minutes and hear this stuff? Sometimes nobody. And that in itself is a gift, and that in itself is therapeutic, and that in itself can create change. And so I think that gets noticed more on the second semester when stuff does come up and then the kids are bringing it in the room. But I think initially there is some of that, which I remember feeling of like, am I doing anything? Is this therapy? Like, what's happening here? So that's one piece. Also, it's really unique to be working with clients who aren't coming to you because they want to, right? So in other settings, people come to an agency, they come to a private practice because they're seeking help or change. At Holden, it's a part of the program. Everybody has to do one-on-one therapy. It's not optional. So you're getting sometimes kids who aren't as open at first, maybe, and are kind of like, I don't, maybe have a stigma around what therapy is, don't really understand that this really is just about connection. So I think that can feel challenging at first. The other piece is you have a lot of different hats. So you're sometimes some students' individual therapist, sometimes you're their family therapist, sometimes you're a teacher in their elective class that's a group. Sometimes you're a couple of those things, sometimes you're none of those things and you're a staff member. So starting to kind of get a sense of like, who am I in this moment when I'm sitting with this kid at lunch and we're eating together? And maybe there's some students it would be more appropriate to self-disclose a little bit more than with other students who might be your client. And so just kind of balancing those different hats, which I think is challenging, but also a really great thing to start doing at the beginning of your work learning to be a therapist, because so much of this work is about boundary setting and is about how do I show up in these moments and what feels comfortable. And I think that's a little bit more challenging to start figuring out later in the work than right at the beginning. So I think that's a challenge, but also a benefit of working at Holden. Wonderful place. I mean, that's why I'm here. I haven't left, and working with teens was not an area that I thought for myself as a therapist was going to be where I would land and would be the right fit for me. I think it's a place where, as much as we try to, on some level, like reparent these kids and give them a place where they really feel seen, respected, loved, heard for just how they are without wanting to change them, I think we do that with the staff too. And I think it's been like really reparative for all of the adults who work there as much as for the kids. So I think I hear that a lot from counselors, and I stay in contact with counselors for years, if not decades after leaving there, because I think there's a place that feels really supportive, loving, challenging. And I think it's a gift to be able to work there. Also, to be able to be in the room when family therapy is happening and not be in charge of running it is amazing. I mean, to get that experience where you get to feel it, be in it, but not have the anxiety and stress of being in charge. You really get to be a voyeur in the room of this experience that I don't know of that happening anywhere else, where one, there's two therapists in a room, but that you really get to experience it and watch it and learn from it, as opposed to, hearing a video and supervision or watching something of what happened in the room. So I think that is also a unique thing that we offer, unique opportunity at home.